ta façon d'aimer doudou. C'est pas gentil, vraiment fatigue.
Nadina yo yo.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, now welcome back to the second part of the show. Just in case you're joining us, remember now we are set to have our morning discussion, and this is what we'll be doing here in the next couple of 15 minutes as we get to inform you on quite a very typical and interesting topic. And today, like I mentioned earlier, we are calling a spade and not a big spoon. That is what we are discussing, and we'll be discussing around teenage sex. Now, yes, believe it or not, our teenagers are having more sex than even the parents. That is what is being said out there. I don't know if it's true, but I'm yet to find out whether it's true from my guest. That is VIVIAN EDWICK. She comes from the YACH Mombasa, and she's a member as well. And she's here in a capacity to talk more concerning teenage sex, not pregnancy. Today we're talking about teenage sex and how it needs to be addressed. And also there's this issue of the role of parents in taming teenage sex. How is this role supposed to be played? And whether if they have had to play it so effectively, and what needs to be done going forward. That is what we'll be discussing in a nutshell. And many more of your questions that you'll be sending in, and you can do so and send your questions, comments about the same on the number below your screen, and also share them on our social media platforms. We are up and running on Facebook. I believe we are live also on YouTube. You can check us out, and you have no reason to miss what we are doing here now together with my guest VIVIAN EDWICK from YACH Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Right. Karibu sana Boss TV.
Thanks.
And for the person who is watching you for the very first time, simply because you're new on the show here, and this YACH thing is not new here, we quite mention it quite often, but today we want to understand who exactly is VIVIAN and what does she do.
My name is VIVIAN EDWICK. I'm a YACH, that is a Youth Advocate Champion for Health. I advocate on the policy levels for anything in a deal na health, young people and adolescents. Yeah.
Right. So you have to tell me you're better placed to have a discussion surrounding teenage sex.
Yeah, we work around that, or rather I work around that every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you work it? Do you speak to them, or what do you do?
We have peer-to-peer educations, we have trainings surrounding the themes. Also, we do have some sort of policy, like meetings with policymakers in regards to policies that will help tame the entire sexual reproductive health.
Right. You'll be telling me some of the policies that you've proposed, and do you see that they will bring any sort of change in all these issues that we're talking here? But coming back, you know, today I want us to be clear on this, and we should call it the way it is and saying it the way it is. Do you agree that most teenagers are having sex more often than even their parents?
Yes, I do. I do agree, because teenagers are at an age, coming back to us ourselves when we were teenagers, we were at a point where we really wanted to experiment. Experimenting is everything for a teenager. Now the current teenagers have access to internet, to their phones, they have smartphones, there's everything there.
Right.
Then the sorts of films they watch, the sorts of lives it's broadcasted around social medias, these teenagers just have to experiment with what they see.
Right.
They have to experiment and see, is it as good as people show it?
And whom are we supposed to be blaming here? You know, with the change of the landscapes and how we see our teenagers engaging into these kind of acts, whom should we extend this blame to?
I don't really think it's time for blaming anyone, because if it's about blaming, then everyone has failed. The entire society has failed. So it's not about blaming anyone, it's just taking up arms and trying to see how we are going to figure this out together as a society and help our teenagers and young people overcome the temptations, if I can call it that, the temptations of experimentation.
Right.
Yeah.
The temptations and rebuking the devil himself. and these teenagers, and I know you've quite also mingled to some and spoken about them, and you've spoke to them, the adolescents. I know YACH does well into the line of speaking about adolescents and issues about the teenagers. If you now go out and meet these adolescents and the teenagers themselves here, and when you begin to talk about sex, how do they perceive it? You know, is it normal to them, or during our times we could hear even mentioning that word. It's quite difficult.
You see, it's different because when we were teenagers, if someone mentioned sex, even if you knew what it was, you wouldn't want, especially an adult, to know that you knew what it was. But it's different with our current teenagers because the moment you mention sex, everyone becomes live, and they know what you're talking about. Even when you try to beat around the corner and they'll tell you, si useme tu kenye iko.
Right.
Because they know these things, they live them, if I can say that.
Right. And the effect of knowing these things, do you think it's positive or negative to some extent?
Since it's not, how do I put it? Since it's not controlled kind of information, it's currently a negative thing. So, like, if it was controlled, at least they would know how to go about it and how to mitigate their desires and attractions and everything. But then, since it's not controlled, it's like they're just out there. It's
right.
They do what they want.
I'm trying to see how it is when we are discussing about teenage sex here, with the numbers and the shocking revelations from different surveys by different organizations on how they have handled this. It says here that a huge chunk of teenagers, they experiment sex without knowing what they're getting and exposing themselves to. Do you think that one is also a factor that you guys consider, and it does come to your attention, and how do you address it?
It's a factor, especially if I can mention the pandemic period, where they stayed home for almost 7 months. People, especially students, most of them were idle at home.
Right.
So the only thing they're left with is experiment with their bodies, whereby most of them were even caught down at the beach,
right.
Teenagers, and it was all chaos because these people just, it's there for them. So it's like mtu anakuwekea pesa hapa, then you are not going to refuse. Yeah, anakupima utachukua ama, and wataichukua. So it's what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And why is it so difficult for this kind of a generation currently to make, better choices, to bring a difference? For instance, umesema kwamba ni kama unaekewa pesa hapo and you're told you whether choose to take or not take. Why do they take it now?
Tukisema tutakuwa hypocritic kidogo tukijikompea na wao, because you see with them they have these things at the tip of their hands.
Right.
With us, like, even as a teenager, we kushika simu ya mzazi, it was like, mama, simu yako inalia. You had no audacity, ama there is courage to just receive your parents' calls. But nowadays they have their own phones. They have their own modes of communication. They even know how to go about the entire internet. Pako nasikia mtoto anafundisha mzazi. So we can't compare us with them. With us it was, I guess, easier because we listened to what the parents say. Experience ya mzazi ndo ilikuwa ina go for us, because mzazi akikwambia sex is not a good thing, do not go for sex before marriage, you will shame me, then that was it. Like, that is the information we needed. Right now, mzazi anakwambia don't have sex, sex is bad, then you're watching a soap opera and it's all out there and they're happy about it. We can't compare us and them. Them, they're seeing these things, it's there. Hakuna vile utamwambia it's bad ama.
Right. So I get your point that all these issues start from the kind of information being given to the kids and where they find the information. And do you think also it's high time that we should also look into this fact about information, and how do you think it's supposed to be looked into?
Yeah, it's high time we figured out how we are going to talk to our children, like how we are going to get this information, the right relevant information to them. Because so far what we are doing is citing Bible, citing Quran, citing philosophy, citing whatever we have to cite so that we don't have to deal with the issue at hand. That is what we are currently doing.
Right.
Mwingine atakwambia talk to teenagers about abstinence. The reason why we are talking about sex is because they are already not abstaining. Sasa, if only we could stop maneuvering around the issue, like twende to the issue itself and sort it, not going around it.
Right. So you're telling me people are beating around the bush.
Yeah.
And do you feel why is it so that we are running away from this harsh reality?
I guess because people are scared. Can I use the word scared? Are scared to think or to come to the realization that teenagers are actually having sex. It's a scary thought. Yeah, like you're a teenager, you're a young girl, you're a young boy at home is already experimenting with sex. Like how?
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're in agreement with whatever Vivian is saying here in relation to how we are handling matters about sex, and especially for the teenagers, you can share your thoughts on the same, and also send in your questions in regard to how you feel this thing needs to be addressed, whether if we've made strides as a society, as parents in addressing this issue, and we will be coming back to look at the role of the parents in all this talk, and also the role of the religious institutions and other organizations in talking about all these matters to do with the sex. And now, currently, you've agreed that yes, these things are happening, especially to our teenagers, and we need to stop it from happening. Is it possible for us to stop it from happening, or we should just try and control it from happening? You know, stopping and controlling is two different things.
If we go for stopping it, we are going to be lying to ourselves. It's a matter of feeding them the right information, the correct and relevant information, because so far they have all the information you need. If we are going to go into saying we are going to stop, they are going to be defensive, and that won't work for us. It won't get us where we want to be. Yeah.
And now, how do we get to, if I had said whether if we can sort or control? So you want to tell me that we need to control it,
yeah,
and try and reduce the number of what are we trying to do here?
We are trying to control it. So in a manner whereby we give them the right information, so that this teenager has the capability to make the right choices.
Right.
That in regards to their sexual health. That is, hata kiamua, me I'm going to have sex, they know I'm going to have sex, so I can use this, I can use this, or I can use this. There are options. Or if they also decide, they can say, Mimi, I'm saying this is too hectic, I can decide to abstain.
Right. So, you know, listening to you very carefully, Madam Vivian, it's like you're telling me abstinence with this kind of a generation, it's not possible. That's what are you trying to say? Or?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. Abstinence is very possible, but we first have to tell them, teach them why abstinence is also a choice. Because so far with the information they have...
But it seems the preaching of abstinence, it's kind of, haikuji na figure venye ingine inakuja about controlling.
Yeah, so you see, what I'm saying is, the kind of information they have right now, abstinence is not a choice. They see, like I said, mtu anaangalia kwa soap opera, Romeo, Juliet together, and it's all, they're teenagers. They are just now starting to get in touch with their hormones, let me say. And hormones are frantic, like it's all out there. So huyu mtu hakuna vile, that's something beautiful, they want to have that something beautiful. They do not, it's like the idea of sex is broadcasted to them. The idea of abstinence is not broadcasted as much as the idea of getting sex. Yes.
And also, just recently we were, you know, it was Valentine, and there's a story that we did. There was an organization that was going around preaching about how and ways at which people need to control the way they do their sex, and issues about preventive measures. And there were also comments that came out from that same story, with people saying that these guys are preaching and extending our teenagers and our adolescents and the youths to go and get so much into sex, knowing very well that there is ways to protect themselves? Is that so, and why do you think people think that way?
Like I said before, we are scared. We are kind of a generation of scared adults. We have to imagine our children are having sex out there. We have to imagine they are actually doing it. It's not hearsay, it's not, they are doing it. So we want to hide behind the fact that si mimi nilifanya, anafanya,
right.
Ni an organization ilikuja ikasema it's okay for them kufanya. So yeah, we are trying to find someone to blame for the issue. Like we are trying to say, ni Boss TV walisema there are preventive measures. Ni chief walisema kuna hivi na hivi na hivi. No one is going to say, so like if we are saying Boss TV walisema hivi na hivi, wewe ulisemaje?
Right.
What was your part in it? Because that person said what they wanted to feel, what they felt was relevant. What did you say?
Right, and this one seems to be a very big problem with our current society, so to speak. We just wait for things to get out of hand and things to get messier. Is then when we want to now extend the blame game.
Someone.
And do you feel the society is playing its role effectively in addressing this issue? And do you think there is need for more speaking out of these issues?
Not yet. Not yet. The society is still hiding behind religion, behind is it culture? Behind culture, behind we're still hiding behind so many sheets and stuff. We don't want to face the issue that is there. We're still trying to find who's responsible.
Right.
Meanwhile, who's responsible? It's already happening. It's not time to find who's responsible. It's time to find how do we deal with it. It's here with us. The same way Corona came, and we did not take a lot of time trying to figure out who caused it. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do we not get infected with Corona.
Right.
So the problem is we are trying to find out who is to blame, who caused the whole teenage sex thing.
Now, I want to get this from you before we even take a short break here. As YACH, and when we and you go somewhere to facilitate such a discussion, do you go for ways at which you can protect yourself and speaking about all these issues of control, or do you even speak about abstinence in itself?
First of all, when talking to a teenager, it's very important to put it, like to mention it very clearly. Abstinence is an option. Abstinence is an option. Like you don't have to be doing this thing at your age. Abstinence is an option. So now for the people who are already...
Is an option or not an option? You're supposed to be abstaining. When you say it's an option,
no,
you choose to.
Here's what I'm saying. Yeah, because you choose to. It's a strength you have. You are choosing to abstain, despite having the entire information, despite having every little bit of information at your tip, like at the tip of your hands. You are choosing to abstain. So we do talk to them. We do tell them abstinence is an option. For you as a teenager, it is an option. Now, for those who feel they cannot abstain, now, those we tell, you can use this and you can use this to protect yourself from HIV and from early pregnancy.
But which one should come first? That's my question.
Abstinence. When talking to a teenager, abstinence is very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Very well. I was waiting for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to take a short break here in our discussion this morning. And like I mentioned, we are just trying to speak the naked truth. And as usual, we normally call a spade and not a big spoon. That's why we are having a discussion surrounding taming teen sex. That is what we are discussing here together with VIVIAN and EDWICK from the YACH Mombasa, quite of an entity and organization that talks about all the issues within the sexual reproductive health of the adolescent and the youths and the teenagers. That's why she's handling this topic, and she's speaking some bit of sense here that first and foremost, yes, you need to abstain. And if then it's so difficult to you, and I don't know how they do rate the difficulty in abstinence, then you can go for the control measures, and that is what we'll be coming also to discuss more concerning that. Keep your comments coming, but we want to take that short break now here. We'll be coming back in a moment. Don't go too far.
Boss TV, where inspiration strikes.
Wanifanya mimi mwana kukulala sio? Hivi wewe Heri, waniona mimi mjinga sana?
Sema ni vile namuonea huruma tu dadako. Lakini siku nikimtia mikononi, wewe mwenyewe utaniambia.
Hata kunisha sahau. Lakini nitakunuulia, usio na wasiwasi.
Sasa ushapanga cha kunidanganya ili unikuamini sio? Sasa sikiza na unisikize kwa makini. Ile siku nitakuja kukufumania ndo utanijua unijue.
Kuwa uyue, uyue kwa siku hizi kule original na kule mshida.
Hello, boys. It's so nice to finally meet you in person.
Let's roll.
I've got unfinished business. I found the man who murdered my wife and killed him.
It's about the man next to you.
Don't let that man crawl! Somebody help that man!
That's all it is.
No one gets left behind, you know that.
Nobody has to be a hero. It just sometimes turns out that way.
Set of the points.
Wazee wa majanga.
Kutaka kumuuliza mzungu mtoto yalia.
The baby is ringing.
With double central plexus.
I don't understand.
Live bro.
Next time.
Ala.
Hawa wanaishi kwa vituko.
Yo.
Ardhi na bifu na mbingu, mbona broko juu? Hii ni kazi ya Mungu, sio baba ama mjukuu.
Hayana majanga. Sasa ni wazee ama visharobaro.
Tutaka mademu sisi.
Finish. Mambo yao ya kubwaga majanga kila leo.
Kazi yangu mimi ya building and construction.
Building and construction.
Building contractor.
Building and construction.
Hebu ni kucheki.
Building
and construction.
ni mganga. Uganga basi wa kutapeli watu, wa kunyang'anya watu kabisa.
Wewe utapeli kwanza, ngoja takuja wewe. Utamta mbadiri hivi kama hao chizi wa crazy.
Sisi ndio wazee wa majanga.
Wazungu sema it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Building and construction.
Exactly. Good night.
Same to you.
The same to you too.
Ta façon d'aimer doudou, c'est pas gentil, vraiment fatigue.
Nadina yo
Naebati suka siko kingama yanga ina mobali nongai pontalo moka pa mama balana suki sabilo belango ya bato likwela yanga ina sheri suka lilita wala sehemu kiraka. Jamani, madege mengi mpaka hili nalo dege. Dege tena dege lisoliwa.
Hello kids, Boss TV is finally here and we are mindful of you. Every Saturday we bring you an educational, inspiring and entertaining kids show known as the Tutus Club.
I am special as I can be. I am special, I am me.
We will showcase amazing kids' talents, fascinating stories, the toughest tongue twisters, and not forgetting the Teen Talk Show.
Baby shark, baby shark, baby shark.
Somebody needs somebody. My body, your body. I'm more check up, follow my body. My body, your body. I'm more check up, follow.
Join me, Joy Kaliche, every Saturday only on Boss TV.
Boss TV, where inspiration strikes. Boss TV, where inspiration strikes.
Right, now welcome back to the second part of our discussion, ladies and gentlemen, and we are still here discussing about trying to completely do away with teenage sex. And Vivian tells me that that task is going to be quite a huge one, and it's not possible even by force, by fire. I don't know how true is that, but we will be getting more from her. And as well as you too, you can share your comments, talk to us. What do you think about our topic of discussion? Do you believe that taming teenage sex is quite a task, and how do you think it needs to be addressed? And this harsh reality, why are people running away from it? That is what we are wanting to hear from you, as well as also we'll be looking at matters about the consent that was a debate that was in the country. People are trying to say, let's lower the consent to at least, 16 years from 18. Is it of help? And do you think that is a conversation that we should as well bring it up again and have it be done? We will be talking to that. I will be talking about that as well as we finish the program. But I want to come back to you, Vivian. Welcome to our second part. And when we are talking about speaking to the teens about teenage sex, parents too have a critical role here to play, right?
Yes, they do.
And people have accused the parents, and they are, saying that they are not coming out clear. Parents, I don't know, they are ashamed of speaking this to their kids, I don't know what. Let's start from here. What is wrong with our parents?
I think it's just the idea that my daughter, my son cannot be having sex at 15 years. Mm-hmm. The idea, it's something hard for a parent to actually come to terms with. That my child, that's a child for a parent. Like, my young one is having sex right now, is actively having sex. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy thing to take for parents. Then also, the generation our parents were brought up in and the generation we are in are two different things.
Right.
It's for them, you talked about sex to your uncles, to your grandparents. To us, the only person we have to talk about sex to is you. Mm-hmm. Whereby we can't easily access our grandparents, we can't easily access our aunties and uncles, because most of us have moved to the cities and there are no aunts and grandparents easily accessible from the cities. Mm-hmm. So it's also the generation gap. The generational gap also plays a big part, because I think they just don't know how to talk about it.
They just don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And most of these parents are people who, let's say, they've gone to school, they do understand this thing. Our parents are teachers, our parents are doctors, medics, our parents are journalists. How can you tell me that they don't know how to speak about it? Just sitting your child down and telling him, you know, this is what needs to be known.
I think here is what they know how to do. Skiza, Vivian, sex before marriage is very bad. Don't shame me. Don't bring a pregnancy in my house at this age. Don't do this with that son of so and so. That is what they know how to do. They don't know how to say, are you having sex right now?
Right.
Why do you think sex is an option for you right now? They don't know how to actually ask the child what they're feeling or what they're thinking at that teenage period.
So in short, they want to they want to listen, they want to speak out their minds, but they don't want the kid to speak up his or her mind, right?
Yeah, that's the generation they're from. The generation where they say jump and the child has to jump.
Right. Yeah. And do you think it's working at the detrimental of the moral fabric of the society in itself?
It's not really working because today's child has been coached, even in school, to speak out. They've been taught to have a mind of their own, feelings of their own, so they can just play dumb in front of the parents and do whatever they want to do.
Right. So if we want to make these parents and we want them to play their key role in addressing this issue and taming this kind of teenage sex thing, where do we begin from?
It is from our homes, because that is the smallest unit of a society, yes. So it is from our homes, the nuclear family, the father, mother, children. That is where we are supposed to start from, because believe it or not, we emulate a lot from what we see at home. What we see at home, in as much as we want to experiment with everything else, but what we see at home also decides what we do with our lives out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. So we should start it from home.
We should start it from home.
When we're done with supper, we can sit down and have a discussion, very candid.
I tell people we do not have to necessarily even fear when kissing scenes come on screens. It's a very, how do I say it? It's a conversation opener. Like, asa ona hawa, and then you gauge from their reaction how they're going to react, how they're going to talk to you. It's going to help you to know how much do they actually know about these things. Instead of acting symptoms and everyone is like naangalia kando iishe, yeah, come to your party iishe, waanze watch kitu ingine. Apparent mothers will talk about Romeo na Juliet pale waliact vizuri, walikuwa wanapendana.
More of Western or African, you know.
But most of we are not our chests right now proudly and Africans.
Right.
It's a bit we are Africans right now while emulating so many things from the Western. Why do we think we have a right to emulate stuff from the Western culture?
Taming the sex, and this is one of the kind of a conversation that is missing in most of our homes. That is according to Vivian here. She's maybe to some extent parents believe and feel that they do have a very critical role in trying to bring this down and then trying to reduce the number of teenagers having engaging into sex. Share your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be sampling your views as we get along with the discussion, and also we'll be touching on matters to do with the consent from 18 to 16. Do you agree with that as well? And also we'll be looking at also how organizations need to come out and boldly speak about this. And also the organizations have been accused to be a kind of propelling all these ideas of trying to educate more teenagers to engage in sex, but there are ways at which they can control themselves. Yes, coming back to you, Madam Vivian, we had to at least fix something on your microphone. And you just mentioned to me that we need to start this from our homes here to school. The parents may not know what exactly is happening in school. Do you feel also in school something more needs to be done in talking about teen sex?
As a parent, I talk to my child at home. I escort my child to school, or my child goes to school already started. Teach, instill the same knowledge, relevant knowledge. Then the religious leaders, the, how do I say, the balozi wa mtaani, or like every factor of the community has to take part in raising the teenagers.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true. And there was also a conversation that we should have more of sex education in our syllabuses and trying to teach more kids concerning this. Do you think it's a good idea? And why do you think also it sparked a lot of debate?
It sparked a lot of debate because people want to hide, like I said, people want to hide behind the cloak of it's not happening. Well, it is happening. For instance, we can't come and solve a problem that is not there. It is there, that's why people are trying to find out a way to solve it.
Right.
So it is very important to start this conversation in schools, because that is where our children with their peers are. And as we know, like, peers affect a lot about what the child is going to do.
Right.
I'll play my part as a parent, a teacher will play their part as a teacher,
right.
But then that friend also has a role to play as a friend.
Right.
So if we are going to actually teach them where their peers are, together as a cluster, like, now this is the information out there, this is what is relevant for you,
right.
This is what can work for you. It's easy for them to influence each other towards the positive side.
Than the negative.
Yeah.
Right. So you're in agreement that we should have it?
We should have it in schools, yeah.
Right. In the syllabus itself, don't you think we'll be opening more information and we'll be, you know, we'll make them even more curious?
They're already curious. They're already curious, and that's why we're trying to find...
We
are trying to find a way to mitigate the whole thing, because they're already there.
Right.
Ingekuwa haiko, hatungekuwa tunatafuta solution. Lakini it's there. And so far, tunashindwa tufanyeje. That's why we're trying to find every other, like, tunatry to pull every source possible yenye kutusaidia to mitigate the whole issue.
Right. And also, addressing this issue, there was one of a proposal to have and lower the consent to 16 from 18. That we say now, when you get to 16 years, you can, as well as do whatever you think you can do, you're now an adult. I don't know what's your input into this one.
They're already not working well with 18. Why should we have them at 16? I personally feel it's not right, because that way...
If they know what they already need to know, they need to be left and make choices at 16. Why should we even wait?
They do not need to be left. They need to be empowered to make the right choices. So lowering the consent age to 16 is kind of telling them, you're free. It's okay what you're doing.
Right.
While what we're saying right now is that it's not okay. And that's why we're trying to mitigate the whole issue surrounding teen sex. It's because it is not okay.
Right.
Lowering the consent age is only trying to tell them, it's okay, you do what you want.
But then at 16, they say, you know, most of these teenagers, once they get 16, it's so difficult to give them direction. You may say, this is the route that you're supposed to be taking, and you find that the following morning, he or she has shifted another route. That's why they're saying, okay, let's leave them at 16 to do whatever they think they can do.
Yeah, because we are not going, okay, I feel we're not going about it the right way. If we're going to tell this kid, usitumie njia, pitia kule. Kwa nini nisitumie njia, kwa nini nitumie?
Right.
Kuna, unaweza kumwambia, ona ile njia, pale jana kulichimwa shimo. Waweza pita ukaanguka. So usipitie pale, pita huku.
Right.
This kid is going to avoid this njia kwa sababu anajua kuna shimo, atapita penye unataka apite.
Right.
Lakini what we are doing right now is telling them, we pita huku, mimi nimesema pita huku, sitaki upite huku. With no reason. They are teenagers.
Right. 16, they already say kwamba hawasemezeki, and it's so difficult to deal with them. I don't know which kind of approach do you think it's better if we need to talk to these kids at this kind of age, simply because they feel previously, we whom our consent was 18, I think it's up to now that is 18, they assume that once we get to 18, that's when our mind is more mature and we can make decision based on a few factors that we have considered. But do you think also right now that the mind matures so fast, and at 16 somebody is fully developed to be a mature person?
Even at 18, no one is developed enough to make choices, conscious choices. It's according to World Health Organization, they say a brain comes to its optimum maturity at 24.
Okay.
So even at 18, it's not matured.
Right.
How can we give such kind of the power of choice? Like, how can we give such power to a 16-year-old? It's
so you totally disagree with lowering the consent?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And is that the stand of YACH as well? Do you have one position on that?
As YACH, we are advocating for abstinence. We are advocating for correct youth-friendly information to be disseminated around our schools and our community.
Right. Very true. And you just mentioned about youth-friendly, and currently the Mombasa County, together with the Department of Health, are having more of youth-friendly centers where youths can walk in and have discussions and open up for their fellow youths. And I think that is one of the few good things that they are handling. And can you commend them on that as well, or do you think they're just too late for that?
No, it's not too. It's never too late to try and do something positive. So it's a good initiative. It's if we could actually add them and have one in every ward, it will be better. It will work even better.
Right.
So far, we have one in each sub-county.
Right. Yeah. And today we'll be headed at Vita. There is one being opened there.
Yeah.
Right. Very good. And also, last but not least, on matters about organizations like yours having to discuss these issues of taming teen sex, do you think organizations are doing better, or they should also pull up their socks and they should stop misleading and giving out information, and they should speak what is there?
I think organizations are trying their best because they are trying to solve a problem the entire society refuses to see that it's there. All refuses to, how do I put it, wanakataa kukubali huwa hili jambo lipo. So society organizations are doing their best. That's it. Like, we are doing our best.
Right. And do you think your efforts bearing fruits, positive ones?
Yeah, I can say they are, because we go to the teenagers themselves. Most organizations go to the teenagers themselves.
Right.
Like, you talk to the teenager, you talk to them about the choices they have in life, about how it's going to affect their lives, and then you let them make conscious decisions. Yeah.
Right. Very well. Now, as we wrap it up, maybe there's one that youth who is watching and seem to not understand why have they even been judgmental to us, or are they being so mean to us? They did enjoy their time and are now sitting trying to lecture us on these issues. And this kind of a mentality and defensiveness of the teenagers is also not working for them. And I want you to comment about how they kind of try to defend themselves on these issues. Do you think some of their arguments make some bit of sense?
I don't really know the arguments, but I think it's okay for them to view adults, any adult around them, as a friend, not as a foe. This is a friend whom you can talk to. This is a friend whom you can just sit and tell everything that's going around your mind, especially your parents. Those, as we commonly like to say, the only person who has your best interests at heart ni mamako. So talk to this person. Let's not only limit it to mamako, kuna mamako na babako. For those who are not fortunate to be living with their parents, they have guardians. Just that one person when you can trust, when you can talk to them about everything that's going on in your life. Thereby, you are going to be able to make conscious decision as per what you talk about with your guardian or your parent.
Right. Very true. Good. So you want to tell me, Vivian, that once your son gets to a level at which they can understand, you'll be sitting your son down and telling him what is there?
Yes, I will. It's
sure?
very important.
And mother to son, do you think also there's need to be having that conversation, or you should leave that to the dad?
It's very important, since we're also living in a generation where single parenthood is on the rise. It's not right to let that be another person's responsibility. It's my responsibility. That's my child. And anything I want him to know in life, anything he's going to know in life, I want it to come from a good place. And which better place inaweza kuwa wapi apart from mimi mzazi wake.
So you feel single parenting and cannot lead to some of the information being lacked by the kid? For instance, let's say the kid is the son and the dad is not around. Do you think he'll be missing some of this kind of information?
Not really. If the parent actually takes up active parenting, the problem we have is most of us really do not want to be active parents. Like, we just want to let it be another person's problem. Amepatikana alikuwa yuko na msichana, shauri yake mimi nitampeleka polisi. Amepatikana shuleni amefanya hivi, mimi nitamsema kwa mwalimu wake. So no one wants to actually take up active parenting.
Right.
Yeah, but if they did, there's no problem being in a single parenting.
Very well. I think parenting is also another topic of discussion for another day. But we are so much grateful for your time. Vivian, thank you so much. And maybe to just finish up, where exactly is YACH found, and where can they get you if they need any sort of information, advice? How can they reach you?
We are all over. There's YACH in Facebook, YACH Twitter, YACH Instagram. You can get us anywhere around that for more information.
And of course, offices?
Offices currently we are at, we are being hosted by LVCT in Nyali.
Nyali.
Yeah.
Right. LVCT, Nyali. You can find YACH. You can walk in there and seek any form of assistance, whether if you want to be assisted in matters about how you get to understand your sex life, you as a teenager, or what to know about sexual reproductive health, you can find them, and they will be so much willing to help you on the same. But if you so wish as well, you can share some of your queries and thoughts, and we will relay them to them so as they can get in touch with you in one way or another, so as you can as well be getting the necessary help that you need. But on that note, we bring into wrap this show this morning. Thank you so much for your viewership. Remember as well, you can check what we've just done here, the entire conversation, part 1 and 2. It's on Facebook and YouTube. You will check that out, and you can as well share as much as possible, so as the views can get to reach more people, and as well as you can share your comments on the same. And let's keep the conversation going. Let's try and bring the teenage sex into a stoppage. We want to have 0 cases where teenage